What is up, YouTube? I'm Laura, and you're watching Atomic News TV. And tonight, we got some stuff to talk about because stuff is popping off, okay? For those of you that don't know, as of last night, I haven't checked because I literally just walked in the door from work. We were at DEF CON 2 as of last night after the whole Iranian missile really got me. Hold on, I'm getting a message that says my connection is unstable. Can everybody see me okay? Just pop off and let me know in the chat room. Can everybody, is it buffering right now still? Mr. Atomic, am I buffering? Log off all your stuff, make sure. Can you take care of that? Make sure everybody's not on the internet. TKO, you say I'm okay? Mr. Atomic's going to make sure that everything. Okay, great. Okay, so something that really got my attention last night, it really kind of hit home with me because I'm friends with a commercial airline pilot. You guys have heard me talk about her, Captain Vicky. Okay, this woman, she's amazing. Okay, very intelligent woman. In fact, I'm going to read you her credentials here, because I had to ask her. So she is a jet engine mechanic for GE engines, flying for a major carrier. I'm not going to say what carrier because, sources, got to keep those sources secret. But she's been flying for a major carrier for 30 years, and she is a captain on a 777. International flying, okay. So she flies all over as far as I know, all over the Pacific. I haven't heard her mention the East Coast very much. Mostly I hear her talk about the Pacific, the Pacific. But she could pop over there for all I know. But anyway, you guys know the Ukrainian flight went down just after it left Iran yesterday, okay. Suspicious? I think so. I think that's absolutely suspicious considering they had 2 rounds of rockets firing off at a base that had US soldiers. It's too much of a coincidence. And so my theory right away was, oh, these dudes they probably shot this airliner down. Watch Ukraine get involved. Watch Ukraine get pissed off and get involved. So my first thought, of course, was Captain Vicky. What does she think? And lo and behold, I wake up this morning and I have a text from Captain Vicky saying all sorts of things like blah, 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 exactly confirming. No, I mean, not saying that that's what happened, but confirming some thoughts that were in my head of possibilities, I should say. So I said, hey, Vicky, how about you come on the show tonight? And she's like, all right, I'm down. I'm like, because you're not flying tonight, right? And she goes, nope, not flying tonight. And I'm like, good, let's do it. I think you guys are really, really, really going to like hearing from her. Did you have a question? You're raising your hand.
You didn't talk about
Yes, they did have 2 earthquakes in Iran right after, which is like payback's a bitch, isn't it? That's my oldest child here in the room. So we're going to talk to her because, this is Atomic News and that's how I roll. So if you're new here and you are not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are in this room right now and you have not hit that like button, hello, hit that like button for Captain Vicky. You guys are going to get to hear from an airline pilot on their thoughts about this downed aircraft. That's amazing. Okay, so hit the like button. And then after this live stream uploads, make sure you share it. Share it everywhere, okay? I don't care where you share it. You have my permission to share it. Not to copy my information, but to share it, okay? If you need my attention during the live stream, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can hit the super chat button. No, not that way. She's trying to raise her hand. You can hit the super chat button and make a small donation to my channel. It lets you put in a comment or ask a question and it pops up super bright to me. Now, if Captain Vicky is talking, I don't want to interrupt her, but I will acknowledge all super chats at some point during the live stream. Sorry. Swallow, Laura. And then the other way to do it, if you can't donate it, hey, I still want you here. It's okay. You can do the @Atomic News, and then you can type something, and then it pops up in orange, just like TKO, my moderator, just did. So you can do it both ways. Either way, I want you here. I'm not one of those people that's like, hey, donate to me, or get off my channel. That's not me. I want you all here because I want you all to have the real news, not the fake news. So thank you, David Parrish, for your $10 super chat and showing everybody how that works. He says, shock and awe, baby. If there had been Americans on that plane. Oh, I know, right? Apparently an entire Swedish family was on that plane. The entire family is gone. So give me just a quick moment here, hot moment, to give Captain Vicky a call. I know she is waiting for my phone call. And then we're going to talk about this because, I'm suspicious. Are you suspicious? If you're suspicious about this airline crashing, type 1 into the chat right now, because I want to know. If you think, it was just life and it happened, type 2. I'm just curious. So give me just a sec here to dial her number from the Atomic phone so that I can access my other phone as well. All right. We are calling Captain Vicky.
Please enjoy this Verizon ringback code. Vicky.
Hey, Captain, my Captain.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you, hon?
Good.
I'm so glad that you're getting some time off.
I know, it's about time.
Yes.
I'm really going to enjoy it.
You work hard. I know you do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was, absolutely blew my mind and everything that happened with Iran yesterday was this flight going down. And you were my first thought when that happened was like, oh my gosh, what does Captain Vicky think? And then you text me this morning. I was like, this girl is like on the same page as me.
I must be. Well, I can give you some facts that I collected about the flight and then give you some really educated opinions on what happens. This is a 737-800.
Okay.
So these airplanes have been built since 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually over 7,000 built, and they are built by Boeing here in the United States. And for this particular aircraft, it's had 10 fatal accidents out of 7,000 built airplanes, and it has taken a total of claimed a total of about 591 lives. So that's its record going into it. This 737 NG is the letters off of it. It is a 800, and the airline received this aircraft in 2016. It's a workhorse. It has a great safety record, and with the Ukraine International Airlines, they've had relatively no issues at all with this airplane. They have wonderful maintenance, and they subscribe to the same standards that we do here in the United States. So that means that they are they're very good, and they're very particular with their maintenance. And so it's not like a fly-by-night airlines. They've been in business for many, many years. This particular flight number, it's a PS, and it was 752. That's the flight number. They were going from Tehran to Kiev. I believe that's how you say it.
Yes.
Yes, and that is in the Ukraine. So let's see. They took off at about 6:12 in the morning, and they climbed through about 8,000 feet. That took about 3.5 minutes. And at that point, that's when they lost all contact with the aircraft, just like that. They had, prior to that, a normal climb rate,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a normal airspeed, and they did not make any distress calls. They did not do a transponder change. I'll talk about that in a minute, what that means. There were no indication from the cockpit crew, basically, that there was any problems with the flight. And they said that after that, reports were that it burst into flames, and then it headed right toward the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like it had the appearance that it was deformed prior to hitting the ground, and then it exploded on impact. There was 176 souls on board that were lost, and it was, of course, a complete hull loss, as they call it. So some of the things on this particular airplane, all these Boeings, all these airplanes that we have with 2 engines, we have to demonstrate that we can, from a takeoff, we get to a number, a go, no-go number.
Mm-hmm.
And that number is based on how long the runway is, the elevation of the airport, how hot it is, our weight of the aircraft, our center of gravity. All of that is constantly calculated. And these airplanes calculate it themselves as well. And so we get to a point on the runway where we have enough airspeed to take off and fly, and not enough runway to come to a full stop. And that's our no-go speed. And so we, at that point, we call it V1. So at that point, we're going to go. We're going to take off. And that is important because we can do it on one engine. So if we fail an engine, it doesn't matter which Boeing it is. If you fail an engine at that point, you can take off, fly around and dump your gas, not in this airplane, but you can dump gas if you have to, and come back in and land the aircraft safely. If you're at altitude, what you would have to do, like if you're at 37,000 feet, which this aircraft can easily do, you would follow the checklist, and the checklist would say descend to 25,000 feet. And at that point, you can maintain pretty much a level flight with one engine. So flying on one engine, we rule that out immediately, that's any kind of issue. They said that it had burst into flames, and even an aircraft engine that burst into flames, we have redundant fire protection. We have fire detection, fire protection, and there's 2 bottles that we can fire right into the engine that will put it out immediately. And when we push that fire button, it cuts off the hydraulics, the pneumatics, the electrical, the oil, everything to the engine is just shut off. So, and the fuel, everything is shut off. So it has nothing left to burn. And at that point, that's when we can safely shut the engine down and turn it off. So those are all the protections that are actually built into the airplane. So when you start looking at it, you're going, okay, they got to about 8,000 feet, which is at that point in flight, you've done all of your, after you take off, you bring the gear up, you bring all the flaps up, and you start climbing out. So they're at a normal climb speed at that point. And nothing is left hanging out, as we would call it on the airplane. Everything's cleaned up. It's flying away. And at 8,000 feet, you're probably coming up on 250 knots of flight, if they weren't at 250 knots already. So it's quite fast. And so one thing that they didn't do when this happened, they made no distress call, no emergency call, no mayday, pan. Those are for international distress signals. They made none of those. And your checklist, that's the first thing you do, is you communicate. And you fly the plane, you don oxygen masks, and you tell everybody around you what's going on and whatever frequency that you're on. At that point, they would have been on a departure frequency, and they would have told immediately what they had, and hey, we'll get back to you, we're kind of busy. They would have even had said that. And that part of the checklist is squawking a certain code. That means you change it so every controller that is monitoring that radar can see that's an aircraft in distress. They clear everybody out of the way and they give them priority. So no distress call was made. And no transponder was changed to that frequency. All communication stopped immediately. So you have to say what's going on at that point.
Right.
At 8,000 feet, we're not really even pressurized yet. We don't even worry about it's pressurizing. But if you lost all pressurization at 8,000 feet, it is no big deal. We can go all the way up to 15,000 feet with no pressure. And you're not going to have a problem. So you rule out pressurization, that they passed out. You rule that out. You rule out that the pilots did something, because there's nothing that you can do that create that on that airplane internally, unless there was something that was brought on board. But from the sound of it, it sounds like it was something on the outside, because they were talking about fire on the outside of the airplane. And all of the cargo is in the belly of the airplane. It's with the fuselage. It's underneath all of the passengers. So we look at that. The fuel on this particular airplane is in the wings. And they do not, and they do not have center tank fuel. So that's where we're looking at. Where's our fuel? Where's our fire source coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Is this okay? Am I giving you enough information?
No, this is great. This is amazing.
So, yeah, I didn't have a lot of time.
You have as much time as you want here.
What's that?
I said, you have as much time here to talk. This is the info that you're giving is amazing.
Oh, okay. So now I understand where it's at. Okay, so since it was in Iran's airspace, they're in charge of the investigation, which means they have to go through all the debris, try to figure out how it happened. Put all the pieces back together like you see on TV.
Right.
And one of the things that they, of course, come across is the cockpit voice recorder and the data recorder. And those you would think of, they're called like the black box.
Right. Okay.
And this is, I'm sure everybody has heard, is that they're not releasing that information. Okay, so you go, okay, so why? Well, they haven't had a chance to review it themselves. Yeah, that's probably true. Mm-hmm. And that takes a little bit of time, but they're refusing to do it. So it's like, what information is on there? Because nobody ever says that. Nobody ever said, it's like the FAA is invited. Boeing is invited. All different agencies are invited to the crash site, mm-hmm. so that they all work together in unison. So we figure out what the problem is, so we fix it, we make it better, so it doesn't happen again. And so when these people are not invited and you are not including them and you're keeping the information to yourself, you have to look at that and you have to say, okay, what is going on here? So that raises a question. They were also, they had done the bombing. They fired missiles at the U.S. air base, mm-hmm. and it was within a very close distance of this airport and time, because it was just a few hours earlier that they had been doing that.
Right.
And so, I think I mentioned that earlier today, like my husband saying, they're sitting in the back of a pickup and they got a missile there and they look up and they see a plane and they don't have communication with anybody. They don't know. So they shoot it. And
that's what they do there. They do those kind of things.
That's what they do there.
That's what terrorists do.
Yeah, he knows, man. And I go, that's what they do there. So we don't know. So I don't want to jump on the bandwagon and say, hey, oh yeah, it was definitely, an outside source that created the problem. But in the same instance, I look at the facts that I have at this moment, and I'm going, okay, so things aren't adding up, because this isn't how an accident happens in the air. I mean, I have over 25,000 hours of flying, and I've lost the engine here and there, but nothing ever like this. Mm-hmm. And so they've raised a lot of questions, and for people to say, here in the U.S. that, it's Trump's fault or anything like that. It's nobody's fault here. Mm-hmm, nobody, right. Whoever pulled the trigger on that gun or however it happened, that's not Trump. So that's what I have there.
Okay. So now somebody in the chat room said that he heard there were 2 Ukrainian planes. Do you know anything about a second plane?
No, I don't, but I can look it up.
Okay.
Like there was a second one that was involved in this?
Someone said 2 Ukraine planes down. Do you know that? And I'm just asking for that person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Where did they get that info? That's good. That's interesting.
It says one was this person said one was the 176 people, and then the other is a 6-man plane. So I'm assuming that it's a small plane, just based on how many passengers. But
okay, yeah, I can look into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So Iran is not allowing even Boeing to come in or anybody at all?
Right. So that's my understanding, is that they aren't. Typically, when anything like this happens, everybody comes to that accident.
Right.
Because we gotta figure it out.
You piece together the parts. You gotta investigate it and figure out what happened.
Yeah, you gotta find out if there's something wrong and then fix it. That's how we've learned from everything. We had the DC-10 that went into the fields back in 1989, and it was found out that all the hydraulic systems ran through the same spot in the tail. And when the engine core blew apart, Actually, it was a front fan section. I'm sorry, because I worked on the core. It was the fan section that we built the cores for United back then, and in the jet engine shop.
Mm-hmm.
And the front fan, it was defective, and it blew apart. And when it did, it took out part of the tail. And when it did that, that's where all the hydraulic lines were. And that's why they had such a horrible time trying to get that guy on the ground, get that plane on the ground. So what they did after that, when they learned that, then they reroute all the electrical, and the hydraulics, and they made more redundant systems so that couldn't happen again. And this is how we treat every accident. That's why air safety is always getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
So on this airplane, one thing that is not being posted, but I can tell you,
mm-hmm.
is that these airplanes will tail on us. And what that means is it's connected through, there's a unit on board, we call it the ACARS, and it's like our texting to our company.
Okay.
And so it constantly sends parameters of the airplane to the company maintenance and back and forth. So like if you overspeed a flap setting, because you can't, 250 knots, you can't throw all your flaps out, they would tend to rip off a bit. But if you do it above the speeds that are set, it tells on you. It sends a note to the company, and the company goes, oh, and they can start looking at it and seeing all the problems with the engine. If the engine overheats, they can look at it, and they can see the trend of the engines and what it was doing. And so there's a lot of information that's already been sent to the airline.
Okay.
Not exactly what was happening at that moment, but trends like what were the power settings and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to do with the engines, pressurization, the systems. So they do have a little bit of information, but not like that black box.
Right.
That gives you details. But so they're going to have to piece it together, and that's not how it's supposed to work.
Right.
So.
And with them not letting anybody take part in this, I mean, even like body recovery, if there are any remains of people, I mean,
they're not. Yeah,
Iran is not
a really good question.
It's not like something that would happen in the U.S. where we would, allow families to claim their loved ones, or their belongings. Iran, they're probably going to hold that against, everybody,
Oh, sure. And we don't. Yeah, and I don't know what the flight was made up of. If
right.
It was all, they were all from Ukraine, or
mm-hmm.
if they were, from the local area there. So
mm-hmm.
until they release that, which the airline can release that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get any information about the passengers, it'll be through the airlines. But you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now there's very little to go on, and so we're looking at pictures, trying to see pictures of what's going on the ground.
Right.
And they just said when it hit, before it even hit the ground, it appeared deformed. So that's a huge word. And then when it hit the ground, it just spread out in every direction. So that tells me there wasn't a lot of forward velocity, that it was, heading like straight down.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are things that I'm looking at right now to see what the details of those are.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully this is helpful for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I feel like I should have popped popcorn before this, because I'm like sitting here going, oh my gosh, this is so much good information that a majority of the public does not know or have any insight on. So the fact that you went through all this is just amazing in itself. I already prepped everybody. I'm like, she's a very intelligent individual.
Oh no. I don't have it on because I can't listen to it when I'm talking. So
right.
Gosh. Okay. Well, I'm glad you told them the highlights of my life. That's awesome.
Now, I do have a question for you. Has have there been flight restrictions made over this area?
I just started looking. Yeah, there is a thing that came out through our company
mm-hmm.
saying about flights over in that area, and even going into the area right now. And they said how we need to be careful, and we can't be, can't wear anything that says USA.
Yes.
We can't wear anything airline, anything USA, anything that can be used against us.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, into that area, the only flight we have right now is Tel Aviv.
Okay.
So I'm watching that every day, and they did send us a note, and they said, hey, possibly it can, we will be, suspending services, but they're just holding off on making that decision yet.
Okay.
So they're waiting, for more information, like I guess all of us are.
Yeah.
So but I will check on that other plane that your cat person. I'm sorry, who was it?
Somebody here in chat. Petrified.
Okay.
I think it was. Her name is Petrified Amber or him. I'm not sure if it's a him or a her. I'm not sure, but I believe that's the person that mentioned it. So obviously,
Okay, yeah,
if I can get that person information, I will. Now from what you talk to me about where you're flying from time to time, and I don't think that I've ever heard that you've flown to the Middle East. Do you tend to stay more away from that area?
Well, I'm junior on this seat, so
okay,
I get what they give me.
Okay,
but yeah, so I've flown in and out of Tel Aviv.
Okay,
and
right.
And so we go there, and we go to Paris and London, and over to Germany, that type of thing.
Okay, all right.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
if you're flying into that area, you're gonna tell me so that I can say prayers for you, right?
Oh yeah, I'll give you my information so you can follow me on FlightAware.
I know
there is a great app out there. It's a flight tracker. It's called FlightAware.
FlightAware. Okay.
And anytime anything like this happens, you can get on there, type in the airline name and the flight number, and you can pull up everything about that flight, the airplane, the flight, their flight plan, where they're going to go from point A to point B, and the route. And if they've flown it, you can get minute by minute the heading that they're flying, the altitude that they're flying, and the airspeed that they're flying. And if there's changes or anything, you can see it on there. It's all posted. Even this airplane is posted on there.
Okay.
And so that's a lot of information, which is great to have. And especially if you're following somebody trying to find out when they're going to land.
Right.
Say, oh, there they are. Oh, they're holding.
Oh, that's neat to know.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's a great little app. They don't pay me to say that, just so that I'm not endorsed by them.
Hashtag not sponsored, right?
yeah, that's right.
Now, since I have you on the phone here and everybody gets to talk to you, I do have a question. Mr. Atomic has a question too. But my question for you have you ever been in a situation where you were something happened to the plane and you were scared, had a moment of, where you were nervous about landing the plane or,
Oh, no, I've lost some engines a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was, I'll tell you this one really quick. So we were in a 757 and I was flying out of Chicago, and Bob Evans, he was the captain. I don't know why I remember that. It was a fifth year that I was there to the day. So 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. So it was August 7th of 1994. And don't ask me any other dates. I don't remember what I did last week. So we're climbing out, and we're climbing out 25,000 feet, and the right engine just blew apart. So we ran the checklist, shut it down. And as we're doing that, I'm calling ATC, Air Traffic Control, Chicago Center. And I told them, yeah, we're declaring an emergency. We had 180 people on board, 5 hours and 20 minutes of gas, and we need a heading and a lower altitude back to Chicago O'Hare. And so they came back, and it was quiet. They go, I'm sorry, say again? And I go, oh yeah, this is United 123, whatever it was. And I repeated myself, and he goes, oh, okay. So he gives a heading and a lower altitude. He goes, I'm sorry, you just took me by surprise because you were so calm. And I go, well, it's not my leg. And so what that means is, one leg the captain flies, one leg the co-pilot flies. One leg the captain flies, one leg the co-pilot flies. Okay. And so you stay current. So I was just saying, I'm not flying this leg. The captain's got it. He's got to handle flying this plane. So anyway, and we took it back, and we landed, and oil was really pouring out of that one engine, but it was like a no-brainer. So they train us so well over and over again that whenever this happens, you get really calm, and they say, don't rush anything, and take your time, and make sure you know what's going on, and that you're looking at all your avenues. And something that they didn't do in the past, way back in the 70s, that they do now, is we take everybody's input. So that we can make the best decision on what we're going to do. And it's not just one person making the decision, it's everybody in my cockpit. We're all making a decision. We all see things the other one doesn't see. Right. So you have to be open, and you have to be ready to absorb information and change your direction. Yeah. Say, okay, you're right. I didn't see that. Let's do that. Right. So it's always important to do that. So it's like, I go, God, nothing ever exciting happens to me. But You know, it's because it's all.
Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay. We don't want anything too crazy to happen to you.
No, yeah, you're right. I don't want that either. I just want to get all my people there safe, and I want them to be happy.
Yes.
And so that's my big goal.
Okay.
And so you fly with me. It's a very boring. It's an uneventful flight.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, Mr. Atomic apparently is staring at me here because he wants to ask you a question. So come over here.
Wow.
So he's going to jump in and ask you a question.
Okay. I'm ready, I think.
Okay. Do you prefer Boeing or Airbus?
Oh, well, that's a good question, isn't it? So I've flown both. So that's good right there. Each one they're both great airplanes. I have probably more time on a Boeing than an Airbus, and I flew the A320 and 19, a same plane.
Oh, that's nice.
The first 6 months I hated it, and the second 6 months I tolerated it, and then after that I just loved it. It's very simple. It's an extremely clean cockpit. Redundant features. I like the stick on the side, the yoke between your legs. I don't know. Maybe pilots like something between their legs all the time. I don't know. But, it's like that's that old Boeing thing, and we're like, come on now, let's get with the stick, and it's got a tray so we can eat lunch. So you look at all those things. The Boeing is what is nice about the Boeing is I've flown the 37. The old 47, the 57, the 67, the 77, and the 747-400. So I've flown all those. And a Boeing is a Boeing. Everything is set up the same way. It's laid out the same way. And although I haven't flown the 787 yet, I understand that it's a very easy upgrade because all the buttons and switches are right there. And when you understand the systems, you're going, oh yeah, it was like that on the 737. Oh yeah, it was 57 wouldn't do that, but the 37 would. So I'm very comfortable with that. The Airbus, with Fifi as we call it. She has her own way of thinking sometimes. So you have to really understand the systems and stay ahead. But they are both great airplanes. I just happen to have more experience in the Boeings because the biggest Airbus that we have is the 320, but they're both great airplanes. So to answer your questions, I have more time in the Boeing. I like both airplanes, but I like my Boeings. So there you go.
Because you work on Boeing parts, right?
I have the Boeing logo on my tooth. And because I was going to get a tattoo, but my husband said no. So I got the Boeing logo on my tooth. And he goes, why would you do that? And I got a Bouvier, one of my dogs, on the other tooth in the back, way in the back. And he goes, you should have your name. I go, why? If you're in an accident, that's how they would identify you. And I go, I'm quite sure I'd be the only one with a Boeing logo. Quite sure. So I guess that's what it is. I guess it is Boeing. I didn't even realize that. That was an excellent question.
Well, he's a machinist and he works on Boeing parts, so that's why he had to ask you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And it's interesting in the state of California, since we're not talking. The state of California, we don't keep our parts at the bases anymore because if we keep a stock of parts there, California will charge us tax on them every time we put them on an airplane.
Yeah.
So we have to borrow parts from other planes or fly them in from someplace else. So that's just sad the way that works. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the way they have to do it because of the regulations in California.
Leave it to California, communists.
I know they are.
Tax inventory.
Don't even get me started there.
Any inventory tax.
We think the same. We know.
Yes, right. Yes, and I just heard, we just found out that, and this is changing subject, everybody. I'm sorry, I'll be really fast. So in the state of California now, they are canceling so many people's fire insurance. Oh. And it's really huge up in Northern California because of the big fires they had there last year. So people that have been with the company for 15, 20 years with them for fire insurance, they canceled them. We're not going to provide it. And if they want it and they have to pay for it, from one person that I saw, they were paying about $3,300 a year for fire insurance, and they raised it to $11,000. So you're thinking almost $1,000 a month to have fire insurance. So that's people insane. Are going to have issues selling their homes, buying their homes, getting a mortgage in these areas, because if they're any kind of area where they can deem it a fire area, then they're going to have huge issues. They're not going to be able to qualify for these loans unless they pay an exorbitant amount, if they can get it. They do say there is a state-ran insurance program, so that's scary right there, that you can buy into. But that's somebody else. So I don't know what the prices are on that, but I just saw that and I just couldn't believe it. All these people are going to have so many issues selling their houses or even keeping their house if they're in a fire area, and it gets burnt down. They can lose everything.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm born and raised Southern California. You know, year after year, fire season hit. So yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I'll say about that.
So the last question I have for you, and then I know you're on vacation, so I'll let you go. But okay, so what surprised me was that hearing, the response of planes being, coming out of various bases. I was surprised to hear action coming out of Diego Garcia, which we had apparently B-52s are coming out of Diego Garcia. And I have heard that Diego Garcia is one of the few remote places that has a runway long enough to land a commercial airliner. And so I was curious if that is in fact true, if you know or not.
Well, I've heard basically the same thing that you have, that they're moving airplanes, and you're exactly right about that airport. There's really not a lot other around there for even for a 737. We need about 5,000 feet. Okay. Minimum. Okay. And so, but these bigger ones, they need, especially if they're going to take off. It's not landing; it's the takeoff. Okay. That's where we need the runway. So, if they're moving airplane, anytime I see them moving groups of airplanes, you're like, okay, wait, what do you know that we don't know? Right. And I can look into that, and if I find any more information on that, I will pass it your way. And I'm sorry I didn't have more. No, you have lots of information. Are you kidding me? You're amazing. That's so nice of you. That is so nice of you to say that. It's really nice. Well, again, I'm so sorry about the passing. Oh, thank you. I know. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I love you for being part of our family that day. Yes. Well, I'll be down at the end of February, so I hope to come and see you guys. Ooh, yes. Well, in 2 weeks I'm going to be up your way, so maybe. Oh. A couple hours away from you. Vegas. Oh, you're 8 hours away from me. Oh, that's 8 hours? It's 8? Oh, yeah, okay. I'm okay. In Reno. Oh, okay. I thought you were a little bit lower than Reno. Okay. Yeah. Nope. Darn. But I'll be down there at the end of February. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. But we'll have fun in Vegas. Thanks. It's we're doing our early anniversary run just for a day or two. So. Oh, that'll be so fun. Oh, great. All right. Well, get back to your wonderful viewers, and thank you for letting me so much talk to you. I really appreciate it. Oh, well, thanks for doing this for me. That's amazing. I appreciate you. So. I know we'll talk later. So thanks again for all your input and your info. Oh, you are welcome. Okay. Right. Over and out. Thank you, Captain. Bye. Bye. Okay, how amazing is she? Seriously. She's amazing. Okay, you can tell. Like when I told you this is a very intelligent woman, I wasn't bullshitting you, okay? Clearly, you can tell she's popping this off. She's a highly intelligent individual. She does her job and she does her job well. And I knew as soon as she agreed to do this, that I would just be on the edge of my seat the entire time. I literally pulled the eraser off my pencil because I'm sitting here fidgeting because I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm such a nerd. Like, I love this kind of information. I'm a nerd like that. So I hope that you guys appreciated hearing the explanation of her theories and thoughts. Obviously, she doesn't know exactly what happened with that Ukrainian airline because nobody knows yet. The information will eventually come out.
but she has the education, obviously, and the experience to know what can or can't happen in certain scenarios. Thank you, Benny, for your $3 super chat. Thank you for supporting my channel. So hearing all that information was pretty freaking amazing. So I do have an article in relation to that just came out. It was updated 4 hours ago from USA Today. It said, did the Boeing 737 go down after engine failure or something else? And that's what we were discussing. If you guys are just came in and you missed that, you may have to go back and rewatch this after the live stream uploads. But authorities have found the black boxes of a Ukrainian passenger jet, it says, that crashed into Iranian farmland on Wednesday, minutes after taking off from the main airport in Iran's capital, Tehran. Iran didn't say whether it would release the boxes or the flight data from them. So that's what we were discussing. Iran has not yet agreed to do that. They have not allowed Boeing or anybody else to come onto the property. I don't know, lack of a better term, property, but the area where the plane crashed, to start investigating. Without it, crash inspectors said it would be harder to pinpoint why the jet went down. The Boeing 737-800 crashed hours after Iran launched a ballistic missile attack on Iraqi bases housing U.S. soldiers, which is what we just discussed. It was within a few hour range. Okay, coincidentally, maybe not. It is a terrorist area. Okay, there are dudes that sit in pickup trucks and have rocket launchers in the back of their truck, because why? That's what terrorists do. So is it feasible? Is it very possible that that could have happened? Yes. Okay, like Captain Vicky said, an engine fire. If there had been an engine fire, that's not something that necessarily would down an airplane. That's something that can be recovered from, and planes can safely land. There are procedures in place. There are things to help them control that fire if there was an engine fire, okay? It's been reported that, as Vicky said, that the plane looked deformed as it was falling. I did post a video late last night on my channel of the alleged, okay, this is not confirmed yet, but the alleged crashing of this plane. So you can see a fireball, coming down, and then okay, so it doesn't look like a missile, a rocket. Okay, it does look like something else. I say alleged because it's Iranian footage. Okay, they're speaking in Iranian. You can't understand. I don't speak it. Do you speak it? So I'm gonna say alleged until we get a definite confirmation from, I would say, the White House. Okay, it's a reputable source. Okay. But going on with this article, it says Ukrainian and Iranian officials gave no indication the plane crash and the missile attack are related. Well, why would Iran to give that information? Why would they confirm that or indicate it? Why? So that Ukraine can get involved and start bombing Iran? Because they would. Hi, Ukraine. They're pretty badass, okay? They've put up with Russia for how long now? They don't put up with any BS. TKO, Laura, this is what I was wanting to ask Captain Vicky. I'll have to look at that. Okay, I can't click on it now because it'll take me out of the live stream, but I can go back and watch that and click on that, and then I can ask her about it. Ricardo says passenger list. I don't believe we have a passenger list yet. It's coming out, though, because we do know, I did see an article that there was an entire Swedish family on the flight, mother, father, children, that obviously are now deceased. This is a problem. This is a serious problem that Iran is not allowing anybody access to the crash site. For many reasons, because one, it can't be investigated. Two, we can't find out the truth. Three, remains can't be recovered to be given to loved ones, belongings. And it gives them the opportunity to change what is on the ground, change evidence, make it look like something else. Do you know what I'm talking about? Figure that out. Cover up. Okay. So there's a lot of reasons why Iran wouldn't do it. Also because they're Iran and they may just hold it as leverage against Ukraine, against the US, against whoever, because that's Iran. That's how they roll. Okay. There was no way for Iran to know it was engine failure, said Mary Schiavo, a former U.S. Department of Transportation Inspector General and a pilot. You know, I'm bad at names. I don't know if I pronounced that wrong or right. She said photos of the wreckage she's examined show no evidence of engine problems. Planes don't just fall apart in midair. I mean, yes, pieces could fall off, but they don't just... Okay, so photos that have been seen so far do not show evidence of engine problems. So what does that tell you? That is the wreckage of an explosion in the air, she said. Something happened to blow that plane out of the air. Statistically speaking, that's a missile or a bomb. Okay, so if this airline wasn't shot down, it's quite possible that somebody was able to get an explosive device on that airline. Okay, I know that is a very difficult thing to accomplish, but different countries have different security procedures than the US. Maybe something like that could happen. I don't know. I've never flown to the Middle East. I have no intention of flying to the Middle East. I have no desire to go to the Middle East whatsoever. It's a big old litter box is what it is, and I have no desire to piss in it. So the information will come out eventually. We're going to find out information eventually. Someone mentioned, don't we have, I mean, this day and age, don't we have ways of figuring out if something was fired from the surface? Yes, there are ways, but granted, it's not our country. You know, there's satellite images that could be pulled. I'm sure the White House, you know, and the Pentagon is looking into that, you know, to help Ukraine, because we're friends with Ukraine right now, okay? According to the phone call, that was apparently quid pro quo. So I'm sure that we're going to, you know, any information that we have or we can find out, we would give that to Ukraine. And so would other countries too, as well. You know what interests me about all this? Is it me? I mean, maybe I haven't seen it yet, but Russia's pretty quiet right now. Has anybody in here seen or heard anything, any article, any piece of news on any TV or, you know, Facebook article, Twitter article, anything about Russia responding to the whole US-Iran thing or the downed airplane? Anybody? Yeah, that's what I thought. Chikio says quiet. That interests me. Yeah, nemnoga gavaru по-русски. What I just told you is that I know a little bit of Russian. Ukrainian differs slightly from Russian, but they're very similar. Okay, there's a lot of similarities in the language. A lot of times it's like telling the difference between someone speaking Cuban Spanish versus Mexican Spanish. Okay, slang is the big difference. I do know certain things. So I do kind of Google Russian and Ukrainian news outlets. There are some things I can read, some things I can understand. For the most part, I don't. I can sometimes say what I want to say, but when somebody who's fluent and, you know, a natural speaker of Russian. I'm like a deer in headlights. I'm like, what? So I kind of look for those things. If I find out more information, if I find a response from Russia or a response from Ukraine and I can translate it for you, which I probably can with some time, I will share that information with you. So this is essentially what I had planned for you guys tonight. I could go over what happened, everything last night. But to break it down, just to give it to you short, 2 rounds of rockets fired at a base that housed U.S. soldiers. Okay, for those of you that were asleep and missed it all, I was surprised by Donald Trump's response this morning. What? Okay, everybody that's in the chat room right now, how many people listened to President Trump's response this morning in regards to last night? Just say I did or something like that in the chat right now. I'm curious, is there anybody who did not hear President Trump's response this morning, his statement? What I noticed was he did stumble over some of his words. Okay, so a lot of you have. Okay. I'm sure the left will pick that apart as being incompetent, but the man probably did not sleep the entire night. I mean, if you were president of the United States and bombs were flying at your soldiers, would you be sleeping? Only if you were Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton would you go back to bed. Okay, but we're talking Donald Trump right now. President number 45, that man, I guarantee you, did not sleep last night. Okay. Patty says, I miss RKTNN. Yes, I do too. He is doing much better. I know they post updates from time to time. So just, keep watching, keep supporting them. There will be, I'm sure, a day that he returns. It may be different. His channel may be different. The way he does things may be different. But he's a really good guy and he's committed. So, and he's tough. He's young. He's tough. So I foresee him making a comeback at some point. So don't give up on him. Don't unsubscribe to him. Amber says Atomic rocks the news. Thank you, Amber. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. I am going to be on another show tonight. You guys, Snafu Snaps, he is one of my moderators. After this, I'm going to give him a call and I'm probably going to pop onto his channel. So if you are not subscribed to Snafu Snaps, make sure that you do, because he covers a lot more, much like, let's be frank, more government stuff than I do. I'm usually really focused on the border, but not a whole lot's popping off on the border right now, okay? Because we're getting that under control. That wall is being built, despite what Democrats will tell you that it's not being built. But it is. Are people still crossing the border illegally? Yes. Okay. Yes, that is still happening. But I will do a border update probably in the next week or so. But in the meantime, in 2020, have to find more ways to support my president than just covering the border. And that's going to include, obviously, the Middle East. I am not the most well-versed person with the Middle East, but you know what? I'm going to work on that for you guys, because obviously this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. So I hope everybody had a great day. I hope you guys all have a good night's sleep tonight. Hang tight, watch that community section. I am going to be doing another live stream soon. I don't know which day, which time. It depends on my schedule at work. I am going to be on Let's Be Frank's show tomorrow night. His live stream ability is reinstated as of tomorrow. So he is going to live stream and we are going to talk about a whole bunch of things. There's going to be a whole bunch of different guests apparently. So definitely go check that out tomorrow night. If you're not subscribed to Let's Be Frank, you should do that after this live stream. He is a great guy. So in 2020, my plans for this channel are to expand on what kind of news I am covering. So not just the border, not just Trump, but yeah, that's going to be a lot of it. But new stuff too. And yeah, the other channel is coming. You guys don't forget to subscribe to my backup channel. The link is down below in the description box. You know, I've been censored in the past. In spring, they shut me down for a day. That could happen at any time again, especially in 2020, trying to silence conservatives. So make sure that you are subscribed to my backup channel. This is Atomic News, and then the backup channel is Atomic News TV, okay? The link is down below. Make sure you subscribe. And then coming later in this month, probably next week, I'll start posting the links for the third channel, Atomic Reviews, where I'm going to start reviewing things and giving the same straightforward, honest opinion that I have on this channel, but towards other things in life, whether it be food or vacation spots, or it doesn't matter. We're going to keep it 100%, baby. We're going to keep it real, straightforward, honest, and the way it is. No
fake news
on that channel either. So the first thing we're going to do, I was going to go to El Dorado Hot Springs, but I'm going with my coworkers, and El Dorado Hot Springs in the public area is mandatory no clothing. Okay, so you got to be naked. And since I'm going with my coworkers, that's probably not the best idea, right? I mean, they are my friends. Like, we've been friends for years, and it's probably still not a good idea to be naked with my coworkers. So we're gonna go to a different hot spring 3 hours from Phoenix. Okay, we have reserved a private tub room thing, okay, that has like a waterfall, whatever, and we're gonna review that hot spring. Okay, and that's going to be the first official review on Atomic Review. So I'll be posting the link to that channel probably tonight, actually. You know what? The community section. I'm going to put it in the community section. You guys make sure you start subscribing to that channel, and get a real opinion from a real. So you guys have a good night. And until next time, peace out.